Brothers, emperors of your own fate, welcome back. You're here because you felt it, that gnawing sense that most men are living as prisoners of their own minds, slaves to opinion, fear, and distraction. But not you. Not anymore. Today you will receive the mental armor of Marcus Aurelius himself. 7 laws forged in blood, mud, and war. 7 weapons that will make you psychologically unbreakable. If you're ready to become dangerous in the only way that truly matters, through mastery of your own mind, then subscribe now. And comment below. Tell me where in the world you're watching from. Let's see how far this brotherhood reaches. Now, let us begin the transformation. Asterisk. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire at its zenith. He commanded legions, decided the fate of nations, and held the power of life and death over millions. Yet every night, in a cold military tent on the Germanic frontier, covered in the mud and blood of war, he wrote to himself, not for glory, not for history, for survival. Meditations was never meant for your eyes. It was his private arsenal, manual for mental warfare, written by a man who understood that the battlefield inside your skull is more dangerous than any external enemy. These are motivational quotes to put on your Instagram story. These are tactical orders from an emperor who knew that weakness of mind is the only true defeat. Today, you're going to receive 7 pieces of mental armor, 7 laws that, if you internalize them, will make you functionally unbreakable in a world designed to break you. This is not philosophy for classrooms. This is doctrine for war. Let's begin. Law 1. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. The quote. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. The truth. Marcus wrote this while dealing with betrayers, incompetent generals, and political enemies who wanted him dead. He understood something most men never grasp. When someone wrongs you, your immediate instinct is to mirror their behavior. They lie, so you lie back. They sabotage, so you sabotage. They operate from fear and weakness, and suddenly, so do you. Marcus recognized this as the actual victory condition for your enemy. They've successfully degraded you to their level. The emperor, who could have crucified his enemies, chose something far more lethal: indifference fortified by excellence. He refused contamination. Revenge, in the traditional sense, is just voluntary infection. You adopt the traits of weak men because weak men angered you. This is strategic suicide. The man who maintains his principles while his enemy descends into chaos doesn't just win, he becomes unreachable. The strategy: identify the person who has wronged you. Now audit yourself ruthlessly. Have you started lying because they lied? Cutting corners because they did? Operating from spite instead of strategy? Stop immediately. Your revenge is not their destruction, it's your elevation. Every time they expect you to stoop, you ascend. They want you angry and reactive. You become calm and methodical. They want you bitter, you become better. This is how you haunt someone, without saying a word. Years from now, they'll see what you've become, and they'll realize they were fighting a war you never even acknowledged. That's power. Law 2. Choose not to be harmed, and you haven't been harmed. The quote. Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. The truth. This is the most misunderstood weapon in Marcus's arsenal, often dismissed as denial or toxic positivity. It's neither. Marcus is describing the invention of psychological invincibility. He's saying that harm is not an external force that penetrates you, it's an internal permission you grant. Someone insults you, that's just air vibrating. Someone betrays you, that's just their choice. The harm only exists when you convert their action into your emotional reality. Marcus fought wars where men died screaming. He buried children. He knew real harm. And still he wrote this, because he discovered that suffering is a collaborative process. The external event is one variable. Your interpretation is the other. And you control only one of those. This isn't about pretending bad things don't happen. It's about refusing to manufacture your own psychological defeat. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control, but Marcus understood it as something simpler. Most of what destroys men never actually touches them. They do it to themselves. The strategy: next time something bad happens, pause before you react. Separate the event from your narrative about the event. Someone didn't promote you this. Data. The story that you're not good enough, that's your addition. Someone criticized your work, that's their opinion. The belief that you're worthless, that's your construction. Stop building the weapon that your enemies hand you the materials. 4. This doesn't mean you don't respond strategically to threats. It means you respond from clarity, not from a wound you inflicted on yourself. The man who cannot be psychologically harmed cannot be controlled. He's already won. Law 3. We care more about their opinion than our own. The quote. It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. The truth. Marcus is diagnosing the core absurdity of human behavior. You claim to value yourself, yet you'll destroy your peace, compromise your principles, and abandon your path all to appease the judgment of people you don't even respect. He's calling out the insanity of outsourcing your self-worth to a crowd that isn't even paying attention. The Emperor of Rome, surrounded by senators and sycophants, still had to remind himself of this, because the need for approval is a parasite that infects everyone. It's the voice that says, "What will they think?" When you're about to make a bold move, it's the hesitation before you speak your truth. It's the reason you're performing a version of yourself instead of being yourself. Marcus saw this as a form of slavery. You've handed the keys to your emotional state to people who are too busy worrying about their own reputation to care about yours. The most dangerous prison is the one you build from other people's opinions. The strategy: conduct an audit. List 3 decisions you're currently delaying or compromising because of what others might think. Now ask yourself, will these people pay your bills, bury you, remember you in 5 years? The answer is almost always no. So why are you giving them veto power over your life? Marcus would tell you to cultivate a single judge, your highest self, the version of you that you respect. Make decisions that you can defend to that person alone. When you're on your deathbed and end, you will be you, won't regret that someone was momentarily disappointed in you. You'll regret that you never became who you could have been because you were too busy managing the opinions of extras in your story. Kill the audience in your head. They're not real. Law 4. The obstacle is the way to quote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The truth. This is Marcus at his most tactical. Most men see an obstacle and immediately begin calculating how to avoid it, go around it, or wait for it to disappear. Marcus is saying the opposite. The obstacle itself is the path forward. He's describing a kind of mental alchemy where resistance becomes raw material. A promotion blocked. That's your signal to build skills that make you inignorable. A relationship ended. That's your invitation to reconstruct yourself. A project failed. That's data you couldn't have bought. The Stoics understood that the universe is not conspiring against you. It's constantly providing you with precisely the friction you need to evolve. Smooth seas don't make skilled sailors. Marcus faced plagues, wars, treasonous generals, and a son who would become one of Rome's worst. Emperors. He could have crumbled. Instead, he used every catastrophe as a whetstone to sharpen his mind. The obstacle isn't blocking your path. It is the path. It's teaching you something you refuse to learn the easy way. The strategy. Identify your biggest, current obstacle. Now stop asking, how do I get rid of this? And start asking, what is this forcing me to become? If you're broke, poverty is teaching you resourcefulness and hunger that wealth never could. If you're alone, solitude is offering you the space to build an unshakable foundation. If you're facing opposition, resistance is revealing which parts of your strategy are weak. Reframe every setback as a training exercise designed specifically for you. The man who learns to extract value from adversity becomes unstoppable. Because while everyone else is waiting for perfect conditions, he's building his empire in the storm. This is how you become dangerous. You stop needing things to be easy. Law 5. You have power over your mind, not outside events. The quote. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The truth. This is the foundational law of Stoicism, and Marcus is drawing a line in the sand. Everything outside your skull or economy, other people's choices, natural disasters, your genetics, your pasties are not yours to control. The only territory you govern is the space between your ears. And most men spend their entire lives exhausting themselves trying to control the uncontrollable while neglecting the one thing they actually have dominion over. Marcus is offering you a trade. Surrender the illusion of external control, and in exchange, you receive absolute sovereignty over your internal kingdom. This is not resignation. This is the concentration of force. Instead of dispersing your energy across 1,000 variables you can't influence, you focus everything on the single variable that determines your life. How you interpret, respond to, and extract meaning from what happens. The emperor understood that a man who masters his mind is more powerful than a man who conquers nations, because the former can never be defeated. The strategy. Every time you feel powerless, angry, or anxious, ask yourself, am I trying to control something outside my mind? If yes, stop. Redirect that energy inward. You can't control if you get the job, but you can control the quality of your preparation. You can't control if someone loves you, but you can control whether you become someone worth loving. You can't control the past, but you can control what you learn from it. This is the most liberating and most terrifying realization you'll ever have. You are responsible for exactly one thing, and that thing determines everything. The man who accepts this stops being a victim of circumstance and becomes an architect of response. And response is the only place where power actually lives. Law 6. Death smiles at us all, but all a man can do is smile back. The quote. Death smiles at us all. All a man can do is smile back. The truth. Marcus Aurelius was surrounded by death. The Antonine Plague killed millions during his reign. His children died. His soldiers died. He knew his own death was not a distant philosophical concept, but an approaching certainty. And yet, instead of fear, he cultivated something Romans called memento, or remember, you must die. This isn't morbid. It's the most clarifying force available to you. Death is the one event you cannot negotiate with, escape from, or postpone indefinitely. It's coming for you, for everyone you love, for everyone you hate. The only variable is how you meet it. Marcus is saying that since death is inevitable, fear of it is irrational. What's rational is to smile back, to acknowledge mortality not as a tragedy, but as a deadline that makes everything matter. Most men live as if they're immortal, wasting years on trivialities, postponing significance, drowning in distraction. Marcus did the opposite. He used death as fuel. Every morning, he'd remind himself that this could be his last day. It made him sharper, more present, more intentional. Death wasn't his enemy, it was his advisor. The strategy, you're going to die. Probably sooner than you think. Statistically, catastrophically, randomly, the method doesn't matter. The fact does now. Use it. Every morning, before you check your phone, say out loud, I might die today. Let that sink in and ask, if this is my last day, what actually matters? Suddenly, the argument you were going to have seems stupid. The approval you were chasing seems irrelevant. The fear that was paralyzing you seems trivial. This isn't pessimism. The ultimate optimization tool. Death makes the trivial visible and the essential undeniable. The man who lives with death as his companion doesn't procrastinate, doesn't settle, and doesn't waste time on what doesn't matter, he becomes efficient, bold, and free. Smile back at death, then get to work. Law 7. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. B1. The quote. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. B1. The truth. This is Marcus delivering a killing blow to philosophy without action. The world is full of men who can articulate virtue, debate ethics, and theorize about excellence, but never embody any of it. They know what they should do, they just don't do it. Marcus spent his life surrounded by intellectuals, senators, and philosophers who could talk endlessly about justice, courage, and wisdom. But when crisis came, most of them vanished. The emperor learned that knowledge without execution is just sophisticated cowardice. Talking about being disciplined while you're undisciplined is self-deception with extra steps. The gap between knowing and doing is where most men's lives disappear. Marcus is issuing a direct order. Stop deliberating and start demonstrating. The good man is not defined by his intentions, his education, or his eloquent descriptions of virtue. He's defined by his actions, especially when no one is watching. Character is not a philosophical position, it's a behavioral pattern. And the only way to build it is through relentless, unglamorous, daily action. The diary entry is done. Now comes the harder part, living it. The strategy. Identify one principle you claim to value but consistently violate. Maybe you say you value discipline but hit snooze every morning. Maybe you say you value honesty but lie to yourself about your progress. Maybe you say you value courage but avoid every uncomfortable conversation. Pick one. Then tomorrow, act in alignment with it. No discussion, no negotiation, no I'll start Monday. Just do it, then do it again the next day, and the next. You don't become a good man by deciding to be one in a moment of inspiration. You become one through accumulated action over months and years when no one is applauding and nothing feels significant. Marcus wrote meditations for himself because he knew the gap between his ideals and his actions was the only battle that actually mattered. Close your gap. Stop talking about who you're going to be. Become him today. That's the final law, and it's the only one that counts. Conclusion: you now possess the 7 laws. The mental armor Marcus Aurelius forged in the most brutal circumstances imaginable: war, plague, betrayal, and the certainty of death. These aren't motivational quotes. They're survival instructions from a man who ruled the world yet knew that the only empire worth conquering is the one inside your skull. Okay. The question now is simple. Will you carry this armor into battle, or will you leave it here in this moment and return to being defenseless? Marcus would tell you that reading this changed nothing. Only what you do next matters. Subscribe if you're ready to rule your mind. The war begins now.